Picture two worlds colliding. In one, a soldier kneels in the dirt. Around him, chaos. Explosions thundering in the distance, the metallic snap of gunfire echoing through the night. His lips move quickly, whispering a prayer he's said 1,000 times before. He's not thinking about brain chemistry, or science, or data. He's reaching upward, desperate for calm, desperate for hope. Now jump thousands of miles away, into a sterile white laboratory. A volunteer lies inside a humming fMRI machine. Electrodes cling to their scalp. The scientist at the monitor leans forward as the brain scan begins to light up. Patterns emerge, blood flow shifting. The subject is praying, and the computer captures every flicker of activity. One world reaches for God. The other reaches for data. And yet, they may not be as far apart as you think. For centuries, prayer has been seen as the realm of faith, something deeply spiritual, untouchable by science. But in the last few decades, neuroscientists have started asking a radical question. What if prayer isn't just spiritual? What if it's biological too? The answers are surprising. In fact, the act of prayer may trigger the same brain systems that govern calm, focus, and even healing. Whether you believe in divine intervention, or you're a skeptic who trusts only what can be measured, the science of prayer challenges both sides. So here's the real question for you. Does prayer truly change the world around us, or does it change the one inside our heads? Stick with me, because what scientists are finding might reshape the way you think about belief itself. Prayer is everywhere. Not just today, not just in one religion, but across human history. Ancient Egyptians prayed to Ra, the sun god, hoping for light and harvest. The Greeks prayed to Zeus before battles. Native American tribes prayed to the Great Spirit for guidance. Buddhists chant mantras. Hindus recite the Gayatri. Muslims kneel in Salah. Christians fold their hands. Even people who don't call themselves religious often whisper, "Please, let this work," before an exam, a job interview, or a hospital visit. It doesn't matter what century, what continent, or what language, humans have always prayed. And here's the real puzzle: why? If prayer were only about religion, you'd expect it to disappear in cultures where faith was weak. But it doesn't. In fact, anthropologists find some form of prayer or ritualized communication with the divine in every known society. That means prayer isn't just a cultural add-on. It's baked into who we are as a species. Evolutionary psychologists ask an interesting question: why would evolution leave space for prayer in the human mind? After all, natural selection is ruthless. Behaviors that waste time and energy usually disappear. So why would something as universal, and time-consuming, as prayer survive thousands of years? Maybe because it does something. Something powerful enough to tip the scales of survival. Here's where I want to hear from you. What's the most powerful or memorable prayer you've ever heard? It could be a line from scripture, a chant at a sports game, or even the quiet words of someone you love before a difficult moment. Share it in the comments, because these stories often reveal how deeply prayer is woven into human life. And now comes the twist. We've seen how cultures pray. But what happens inside your brain when you do it? So what actually happens inside your head when you pray? Neuroscientists wanted to know, and brain scans gave them a front row seat. When someone begins to pray, certain areas of the brain light up like a switchboard. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus and decision-making, becomes more active. The limbic system, which governs emotion, calms down. Blood flow shifts toward regions linked to empathy and self-reflection. Translated into experience? You feel calmer, more centered, more in control of your emotions. One scientist compared it to dimming the lights in a noisy room and shining a spotlight on one object. Prayer, in a way, narrows attention and silences background mental chatter. But that's not all. Studies also show increases in neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin during prayer. Dopamine is linked with motivation and reward. Oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, fosters trust and connection. It's the same chemical surge you feel in a warm hug, or when a parent holds their child. That means prayer isn't just words to the sky. It's a biochemical cascade inside the brain and body. Stress hormones like cortisol drop. Blood pressure lowers. The immune system gets a boost. Here's a quick interactive check-in. Have you ever felt instantly calmer after whispering even a short prayer, even if you don't consider yourself religious? Drop a yes or no in the comments, because experiences like that are exactly what scientists are trying to measure. The takeaway is simple but profound. Whether or not you believe anyone's listening, prayer transforms the brain itself. And that raises the next big question. If prayer changes your inner world so clearly, could it also change the outer one? Here's a question that sparks debate among scientists: is prayer just another form of meditation? On the surface, they seem similar. Both involve quiet focus, slowed breathing, and turning inward. Both reduce stress and boost well-being. but brain scans tell a more nuanced story. In meditation, especially mindfulness meditation, the parietal lobe, which helps orient you in space and defines where you end and the world begins, tends to quiet down. That's why meditators often describe a dissolving of boundaries, a sense of merging with everything. It's the same sensation astronauts sometimes report in space, a feeling of becoming one with the universe. Prayer, on the other hand, activates regions tied to language and relational thinking. When someone prays, especially in a conversational style, the brain behaves as if the person is talking to someone else. It's less about dissolving the self and more about building a relationship, even if that relationship is unseen. Here's where it gets fascinating. The body responds to both in ways that overlap, but the experience can feel very different. A monk meditating in silence might describe unity with the universe. A grandmother praying for her family might describe warmth, connection, or even feeling heard. And across cultures, prayer often comes with physical practices that reinforce that sense of relationship: Tibetan prayer wheels spinning in the wind, Catholic rosary beads counted one by one, Hindu or Buddhist mala beads moving between fingers. Each physical action deepens the relational quality of prayer, making it more than just thought, but embodied ritual. One neuroscientist put it this way: meditation is like tuning the instrument of the self, prayer is like playing a duet. And this difference matters. Because if prayer is more relational, it may explain why it boosts oxytocin so strongly, the same hormone released when we bond with others. The brain, in a sense, treats prayer like social interaction. Here's a question for you: when you pray, or if you've ever tried, does it feel more like calming your own mind, or more like talking to someone? There's no wrong answer, and your perspective could highlight just how diverse these experiences really are. We've seen how prayer changes the brain internally. But can it influence the world outside? That's the question scientists asked when studying intercessory prayer, praying for someone else's health or success without their knowledge. The results are nuanced. Some studies, like the STEP project in cardiac surgery patients, found no measurable effect on recovery rates. Others showed slight benefits. Patients whose friends or strangers prayed for them sometimes recovered faster. Surprisingly, a few trials reported negative effects, likely because patients knew they were being prayed for and felt anxious or pressured, offsetting potential benefits. The complexity lies in measurement. Prayer is not a pill, it varies in intensity, duration, and context. Comparing two individuals, one fervent believer, one casual practitioner, is like comparing apples and oranges. Analogy time: it's like trying to measure the wind with a bathroom scale. The tool is too crude for subtle, variable forces. Even when external outcomes are inconsistent, physiological effects are undeniable. Stress hormones drop, blood pressure decreases, and feelings of hope and connection surge. Study after study confirms this, from fMRI scans of active prayer to trials measuring hormonal shifts in intercessory settings. Physical prayer practices add depth. Tibetan prayer wheels, Catholic rosaries, and Hindu or Buddhist mala beads reinforce focus and relational engagement. They turn prayer into embodied ritual, which further strengthens oxytocin release, the bonding hormone. Interactive prompt: have you ever experienced a moment when someone prayed for you, and it made a difference, whether measurable or just felt? Comment below. Personal stories often illuminate patterns numbers alone cannot. Big insight: intercessory prayer may not always move mountains, but it consistently moves the inner landscape, the brain and body, profoundly affecting how we live, cope, and connect. So if intercessory prayer isn't consistently moving mountains, how does it still influence the brain and body? A lot comes down to placebo effects and hormones. Prayer can trigger expectation-driven responses, the same mechanism that makes a sugar pill relieve pain. The brain anticipates benefit, hormones respond, and physiology follows. Cortisol levels drop, heart rate slows, and the nervous system enters a calmer state. For example, a student praying quietly before a stressful exam may experience slower heart rate, heightened focus, and reinforced calm, a perfect illustration of the biofeedback loop. Oxytocin surges during relational prayer practices. This is why reciting a rosary, spinning a Tibetan prayer wheel, or chanting with others can feel profoundly connecting. Dopamine also rises, enhancing motivation, focus, and reward. Neuroscientists describe it as a biofeedback loop: focus inward, positive expectation, hormonal changes, improved physiology, reinforced focus. Brain wave patterns support this: alpha waves increase, relaxed awareness, and gamma waves spike, heightened attention, showing measurable neurological change. Prayer is both a psychological and biological act. Studies show overlap with meditation: both lower stress, improve immune response, and enhance emotional regulation. But prayer's relational nature, talking to a higher power or imagining connection with loved ones, creates unique oxytocin-driven benefits that meditation alone may not replicate. Interactive prompt: have you ever felt calm, connected, or focused after a short prayer or ritual? Comment yes or no, and share which practice gave you the effect. Personal stories complement controlled studies, showing patterns that numbers alone may not capture. Takeaway: even if the external world doesn't shift, the internal landscape of brain and body does. Understanding hormones, placebo effects, and neural activity explains why billions across cultures continue to practice prayer. Prayer is more than a ritual, it's often a catalyst for profound emotional change. Imagine a soldier on the battlefield, whispering a quiet plea for safety. Imagine a parent praying beside a sick child, searching for calm in chaos. Imagine someone reciting a mantra or rosary for inner peace after a personal loss. These moments illustrate the emotional peaks prayer can trigger. Neuroscience shows the brain lights up in regions linked to empathy, emotional regulation, and social connection during such practices. Oxytocin surges, dopamine rises, and stress hormones fall, creating tangible calm and focus. Alpha and gamma waves also change. Think of alpha waves like a gentle breeze clearing mental clutter, and gamma waves like a spotlight shining on focus and attention. This explains why people feel both relaxed and alert during prayer. Studies suggest even brief practices, just 5 to 15 minutes per session, can produce measurable physiological effects, showing that duration and consistency matter. Interactive element: have you ever experienced a moment when prayer or ritual shifted your perspective or mood instantly? Comment below. Personal stories often resonate more deeply than statistics alone. The takeaway: whether religious or not, prayer provides a window into the brain's capacity for focus, calm, and relational connection. Emotional peaks create lasting impressions, making the lessons of neuroscience and human experience unforgettable. We've seen the science of prayer and its emotional and physiological impact. Now let's focus on practical application. Start small. Dedicate 5 to 15 minutes per day to prayer, mantra recitation, or focused reflection. Even brief sessions can boost alpha waves, relaxation, and gamma waves, attention, lower stress hormones, and enhance focus. Next, combine relational and meditative approaches. Try alternating between silent meditation and relational prayer. Physical practices, like rosaries, mala beads, or prayer wheels, create embodied rituals, meaning the body's movement reinforces mental focus and emotional engagement. These gestures make the practice tangible, anchoring attention and enhancing hormonal and neurological effects. To maintain consistency, consider using apps or tracking tools to log sessions, set reminders, or monitor mood changes. Seeing progress over time reinforces habit formation and deepens the impact. Interactive tip: comment which prayer or mindfulness practice you plan to try, and for how long. Sharing intentions increases follow-through and builds community engagement. Also, remember the biofeedback loop: focus inward, expect benefit, physiological change, reinforced calm. Understanding this loop empowers you to consciously shift mood, attention, and stress response, even in high-pressure situations. Visual suggestions: time-lapse sequences of daily rituals, brain scan overlays showing alpha and gamma waves, and split-screen comparisons of meditation versus prayer practice. These reinforce the connection between action and internal effect. The takeaway: daily practice plus intentional focus plus embodied ritual equals emotional resilience and cognitive clarity. Science and tradition converge to show that the mind can be trained to respond more calmly, empathetically, and effectively.